What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of the Always Compete Seahawks podcast. My name is Sam, and I am coming at you guys with a bombshell night for the Seahawks. This is probably one of the biggest days in recent Seahawks history as far as totally reshaping what the organization looks like and the direction of the team. The Seahawks have traded Geno Smith to the Las Vegas Raiders in exchange for the number 92 pick in this year's draft. Obviously, a huge bombshell coming totally out of left field, something that no one really even saw coming, something that no one knew was even in the realm of possibility. And now we are here and it is happening. Geno Smith is a Las Vegas Raider. The Seahawks acquire a third round draft pick. So many things immediately going through my mind about what this means for the team. And really, my first thing is how sudden and unexpected this was. There was no real substance to any idea that Geno Smith would get traded. There was this notion that, hey, Geno is a expiring vet who could be on the market, but there was never really any substantive reports about this is a team that is trying to get Geno. The Seahawks are actively shopping Geno. Nothing was really going around like that. And Geno, yesterday, even when the Seahawks, um, or a couple on Wednesday or Thursday maybe when the Seahawks cut Tyler Lockett. And it was Wednesday, and the Seahawks, and it was very emotional. But the cap was open, and then we were talking about trading Geno, about trading DK. I was thinking, man, the very quick thing that I realized is like, man, think about how much money we are saving now, especially once we extend Geno. That's going to open up so much more money. It was not even in my head that Geno Smith would not get extended. So when this comes out with no reporting on any movement whatsoever, so sudden, so out of nowhere, it really blew me away. The immediate word, and I'll give a lot of reporters credit for how under wraps this was. The reporting on the backstory of why this happened was immediate. Immediately the report was talks broke down in the recent days. Geno demanded a trade late last night, yesterday. Um, Ultimately, the report was Seattle came in with a good faith extension offer, $35 million, likely over 2 to 3 years. Geno said, hey, I actually want $45 million. Um, and that was when Seattle immediately knew that this was not going to work out. Um, I think what's really surprising is that I believe I saw a report that was Seattle had that offer for Geno. It got declined, and there was no counter. I think that's the sign, right? When you put out an offer trying to rework things out and reunite, and immediately it's hey, like yeah, I don't like it. Click, hangs up the phone. You kind of get the sense that that's where things have to end. And a really surprising bombshell out of Seattle tonight with Geno Smith moving, leaving, a really shocking report. Like I said, with the quick reporting, some more stuff where Geno very quickly, it was all about, well, the Raiders are going to start working on a long-term extension. Geno Smith asking in the realm of 45 million. That's a pretty good deal. Pretty good deal for Geno, especially after how poor last season was statistically. I won't say on the field it was poor. I think Geno did a lot with what he had, which was a bad coach, a bad O-line. And for those who have watched the channel before, I have heavily been in support of keeping Geno here and extending him and acknowledging that, hey, I thought Geno was a great quarterback, is a great quarterback, and really this stunned me, and a lot of mixed reactions. It opens up $31 million. That's a lot of money. It immediately puts the Seahawks, I believe, at 65 million, and that's pre a potential DK trade, which would open about another 11 million, and pre a potential Uchenna Nwosu restructure, which would open up another like 15-ish to 20 million. So we are talking that there is a realistic world that The Seahawks are working with $90 million in free agency. And now, my first thought process is the Seahawks have to be opening this money for a reason. Um, I don't see why they would be in such a hurry to open up all this cap space if they did not know that they wanted to make legitimate improvements. And that's why it was so surprising when Geno gets traded, because immediately your mind goes, well, this is a rebuild. This is a total rebuild, which frankly, is that the worst thing to happen to this team? Team that's been in kind of this purgatory for the last 4 to 5 years, of just kind of mediocrity, being just good enough to make the playoffs, but never being good enough to win the whole thing. As a guy who is a casual basketball fan who tends to ally himself with the Thunder, I've seen what happened where the Thunder had Paul George, they had Russell Westbrook. They were a good team. They were a not a contender, but they were a 5 seed and a 4 seed, kind of a perennial first, second round exit. And one day, Sam Presti is like, "Hey guys, we're gonna tear this whole thing down." And it was a long rebuild. Sure, they started tearing down in like 2020, and now it's 2020, and they really only started seeing results in 2024. But regardless, they are now one of the best teams in the NBA with that rebuild and how they decided to attack things. Gino, I always felt that this team it would not hurt itself by going into a rebuild. Here here's what I'm gonna do. Let me kind of go through piece by piece. I'm gonna go minute by minute here with reading the report. So I read the report that Geno gets traded. It's for a third. Immediate reaction. That's less than I expected. Now, as for like really, once I sat with it for a little bit, it's honestly kind of a good deal for Seattle, because if you're considering the fact that Geno Smith is probably league wide considered a top 16 quarterback who's 35, getting ready for a massive payday coming off of a career low since he started for the team. A third round pick sounds pretty good. Because for a lot of teams, there is a real world that this is a rental. And obviously, Geno is probably going to work out a deal with the Raiders, but still, there is that world where, hey, maybe the Raiders still don't think that Geno is worth 45, and Geno doesn't agree, and he says, you know what, fine, I'll hit free agency next year. There is a possibility for that to happen. So for the Seahawks to get a third out of this is pretty valuable. Now, as for the number, which I believe is 93, which I believe the Jets traded to the Raiders for Devontae Adams, who in turn have traded that pick to the Seahawks for Geno. There have been some kind of conflicting reports on what the pick number is. I think I saw somewhere that the Raiders um, traded 73, like that was like an athletic report, and then I saw from Mike Garafolo that they actually traded 93. Very weird situation. Not a lot of like clear input on that. We'll wait to see until the official report. Until then, I will believe that this is pick 93. Um, as for my immediate next thoughts, it kind of all came out in like a flurry of tweets between, I think Jordan Schultz had the first tweet, then it goes to Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, bam, bam, blockbuster, blockbuster, blah, 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 blah. And then immediately from like every single reporter in the business, it's the Seahawks are going to pivot and are going to make a heavy offer on Sam Darnold. Whoa. What? That doesn't really make sense to me. My immediate reaction to that was Sam Darnold has to be cheaper than has to be more along the lines with what Seattle was willing to offer Geno Smith. That's what his market has to roughly be right now. I refuse to believe that Seattle would trade Geno Smith and then immediately say, "Oh, well, we'll go pay Sam Darnold the amount of money that Geno wanted," because I don't think they see Sam Darnold as a better quarterback. I really don't. But if maybe Seattle's sitting there and they're saying, "Hey, Sam Darnold has familiarity with this offense that Clint Kubiak wants to run. He is also the amount of money that we're comfortable paying." I think that makes a lot of sense for the Seahawks. And then, but then it quickly became that the Seahawks weren't just going to go heavy on Sam Darnold. It quickly became like the Seahawks are the favorite for Sam Darnold, which was very quick. Lindsey Theory, who works for ESPN, a reporter, said that the Seahawks are the favorites for Sam Darnold now. Bizarre, very very bizarre. And it's something that happens so fast that it feels so weird when you see that report. In my mind, that had to come from Seattle. That leak would not have come from Geno's agent. I don't think Geno's agent would care if they were going after Sam Darnold. I think Geno's agent would probably care more about the contract offer. I don't think that he would report, "Hey, Seattle's now, hey, by the way, Tom, I'm Geno's agent, and I think they're going to go heavy after Sam Darnold." I don't think he gives a damn about that. I think that had to be a leak from the Seattle front office saying, "Hey, Sam Darnold, we like him. We think his market is more in line with what we have. We think he maybe hell he fits the system better. Um, we will see. We will see." Not a huge fan of that pivot. As far as the pivot goes for like, hey, if we want to stay as a decent football team this year, that pivot works. If your goal is to stay above water and kind of keep afloat with this roster, signing Sam Darnold is probably the best option you have. As far as it goes for getting this team closer to a Super Bowl, I really don't like that. Now, it does kind of help me to see that there are some Seahawks reporters who say, sources say that the Seahawks will see Sam Darnold more as a 1 to 2 year kind of bridge quarterback until they can get that quarterback of the future, and then they will move off. I think that makes sense. Now the other reports that we're seeing from Diana Rossini are also saying that Sam Darnold wants at least a 3 year deal. So maybe it's the kind of thing where, like with what Geno had this year, um, the way his contract was structured was it was essentially a 2 year deal, and this year was very intentionally easy for the Seahawks to get out from under that contract. The Seahawks saved $30 million. That's how you know that not a lot of guaranteed money. That's mostly kind of base salary plus signing bonus. Not a lot of guarantees there in this 3rd year. That's why it was so easy for Seattle to get out. Deep down, I think the intention always was maybe to get out, but then they realized that they didn't really find their solution within that 2 years. So then they're saying, "Hey, let's go sign Geno," and then Geno doesn't do what they want, and then they're saying, "Okay, well, we can get out of this contract very easy." And I will say, I respect John Schneider and Mike McDonald for very quickly realizing that this was not going to work out and then very quickly getting out from under that. Because if we are doing this same situation on Wednesday next week and all the top quarterbacks are off the board, a big time panic ensues. I really do respect John Schneider for recognizing that, hey, this isn't working, let's get out now. I do respect that. Now, my only issue is Sam Darnold the right pivot? All depends on money. A, all depends on money, and B, all depends with what we do with the extra money that we save from trading Geno. What will we do with that? Will we address the offensive line? I think if we do those two things, I think there is an argument to be made that this football team is better than it was last year. I think Sam Darnold with a good O line is about as, at least from the Sam Darnold that we saw last year, could be a fluke. There's a lot of conversation about that. We're going to see how that works out. I'm not really going to speculate on how good he's going to be this year with whatever team he goes to. But for at least from what we saw last year, I think Sam Darnold with a good O line is about as good or better than Geno with a bad O line. That's fine. If you can realistically look at this and say, well, that money that we cleared from Geno's contract is immediately going to go into improving this offensive line, I think that works. I'm fine with that. But I need John Schneider to finally step up and recognize the problem that this team has. That he needs to go out and immediately say, this is the need we have. Let's go fix it. Let's go fix it ASAP. I think once he can finally do that, I think we're talking about a situation where this team is good and can compete for the division and can compete for the NFC. I think the defense was great. I think if we can just get better on the offensive line and be steady, I think we're looking at a really solid team, especially if Sam Darnold can repeat what he did last year, which is be a pretty damn good quarterback and make plays when it matters most and just not make crucial mistakes. So that's my second point, right? First point, of realization was, well, oh, well, Geno got traded. My second point of realization was, hey, we got a third round pick. Third point was immediately Sam Darnold as the connection. Now there were other reports saying, well, they'll also look around the veteran QB market as well. I'm like, who? Aaron Rodgers? Like who else is really there? There was some talk on the insiders that Seattle will be monitoring Derek Carr's situation very closely. Obviously, the clear Clint Kubiak connection there. If Derek Carr does indeed kind of become the a cap casualty in the next couple of days, because New Orleans desperately needs to get out from under that contract, I could see that happening. The general talk I heard was that Seattle what was that New Orleans was trying to work out a contract resolution, much like we were with Geno, and they weren't able to come to something. In that case, I could perhaps see Derek Carr being flipped to Seattle, but I think Seattle would be much more likely to say, hey, well, we like Sam Darnold. We'll let you cut Derek Carr and we'll try to swoop in if Sam Darnold doesn't work. Now, the next moment of realization that I had was what is the team? What's the goal of the team this year? The first thing that hits you is rebuild. You trade your starting quarterback. You're cutting faces of the team. You are actively shopping. Well, at his by his request, you are actively shopping the number one weapon on your offense. What is the goal for this season? First thought is rebuild. Second thought, once you see that they want Sam Darnold, this is a team that still wants to play good football. And that's what's really giving me some semblance of hope that John Schneider might finally address the offensive line. He's clearing a lot of money and he's still building a football team like they want to win games. I'm hoping that Mike McDonald, who constantly hit on the idea of being dominant in the trenches, of being dominant on both sides of the football in the trenches. And one of his key points as a head coach and one of his key points of his ideology is doing that. I don't see why they would be going out and getting Sam Darnold if they didn't want to spend this money elsewhere to improve the team. That's what's giving me a little semblance of hope, even if it's not much. I still think this team wants to be good, and I don't think this team is heading for a rebuild. And I don't know if that's the right thing. I don't. I'm kind of curious on should we just let this team suck this year? Like, should we let this team be a bottom feeder and go be in the Arch Manning sweepstakes next year or whoever the quarterback is, the other quarterbacks are in that class? Maybe. Um, I don't know. I really don't know. It's very conflicting for me because you want to see your team play well, but I think if this team signs Sam Darnold, no matter how good they make the offensive line, I don't think this team could win a Super Bowl. And that's a tough realization to have. Do I think we could be a damn good football team if we grab Sam Darnold and really patch up this offensive line with meaningful additions? Sure. I mean, I think this team could win. I think if you take out Geno Smith, put in Sam Darnold, let's say Sam Darnold throws 26 touchdowns, 10 picks. Let's say that's the year. And you meaningfully patch up this offensive line. I think this team is maybe a win, two wins better than last year, which would be playoffs to me. If you get Sam Darnold and you keep doing this little stupid fixes on the offensive line, I think this is like an 8-win team. I think that's just the fact. And that's a hard fact to really grasp, but I think it's true. I immediately, though, thought of Aaron Rodgers. The John Schneider connection there is far too obvious. With John being connected to Green Bay, he was in the damn front office that picked Aaron Rodgers. I could see him being like, "Hey man, come on over. Like come on down. We will take you and we will promise you a year, maybe two, and we'll try to get a quarterback. And you will be the bridge, and we'll pay you a nice salary. And you know me, and you're from the West Coast, and they just come on over." I could see that happening. And I don't think it would be crazy for it to happen, honestly. But in general, I think Seattle really does like Sam Darnold. And there's a reason why Sam Darnold was the first name to pop out once that trade happened. There's a reason why he was the first guy. Um, and then Lindsay Theory in that same tweet where I said about where I talked about how she said that the Seahawks were the active kind of favorites for Sam Darnold. Let me actually pull up that tweet right now so I can read it verbatim. Lindsay Theory, along with the along with the likely scenario, the Seahawks will sign Sam Darnold at QB. There's some optimism this could alter the conversation with wide receiver DK Metcalf, who has requested a trade. That is bizarre, is it not? Lindsay has typically been pretty on. She reported for the Rams for a little while, and she was always a pretty reputable source there. Is that not bizarre? Like, is it not to say, hey, like, we maybe downgraded at quarterback, but that might help DK. I don't know if that's a source or if that's just her thinking kind of out loud, which some of these reporters do. But if she's a reporter, I suspect that she at least has a smidge of background behind that. Maybe maybe DK likes the idea of playing with Sam Darnold, who's kind of much more of a drop back and rip it type of guy than Geno, who does pretty well when things get a little crazy. Um, I I don't know. My first thought when I another one of my first thoughts when I saw that trade was, oh well, Geno's gone. That's got to be DK too. And now, the way I see it, maybe that's not that way. Another thought that I had was, hey, how is this going to impact the locker room? Because clearly players were not happy about it. I think Corbin Smith straight up came out and said as much that there were several, he texted several current players who said they were not happy. We saw people post about it. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Mike Jarrell, Tariq Woolen, all these guys posting about it on Twitter with like shock, anger, surprise, everything. It is a really bizarre night to be a Seahawks fan because there are so many different feelings about what this means for the team. The way I'm gonna move forward is I'm going into this offseason. I have to think Seattle is extremely confident they can sign Sam Darnold. I just have to think that way. If they are extremely confident they can sign Sam Darnold, the way I view it is I'm going in with the expectation this offseason that they will sign Sam Darnold and they will put in stopgaps on the offensive line because that's all I know what to expect at this point. In which case, I will have some choice thoughts. I will probably be doing daily recaps once free agency hits. I'll be doing like day one recap, day two recap, day three, depending on what happens that day. Just kind of talking about what happened around the league, what happened with some of the rivals, what happened with the Seahawks, especially obviously. But really just a shocking night. What this means for the team, what this means for the coach, what this means for the trajectory of where this team is headed, what this means for the quarterback. Is Sam Darnold going to be the quarterback? Are they going to try to draft one? Are they going to try to trade up? All this, all that. What is going to happen? I am confused. I'm shocked. I'm scared. I'm nervous, but I'm a little bit excited. So I'm hoping you guys will join me for this crazy offseason ride that we are sure to go on. I hope you guys enjoyed. Give me your thoughts in the comments below. Geno was obviously a very polarizing player while he was here. I love him. I want to thank him for what he did to this team and the memories that he gave me, especially from that 2022 team. I want to thank him for playing great ball and being a great quarterback and being a great Seahawk. But very shocking, very polarizing player. Give me your thoughts in the comments below on this move, what it means for the team, thoughts on Sam Darnold, thoughts on everything. and let me know how you guys feel. I will see you guys in the next video. Stay tuned. Peace out.